So we don't know exactly what is or is not allowed in terms of this use of either romance or sexuality as an undercover operator. It would appear to me that you were flirting with him. That's a direct quote from Marilyn Burns, the defense attorney representing Anthony Olenek, the co-accused alongside Chris Carbert, during proceedings today in their shared criminal trial here in Lethbridge, Alberta, in the courthouse behind me. Robert Kraychik reporting for Rebel News. When asked if she was flirting with Olenek, the female undercover officer denied that. She said, quote, "I wouldn't say I was. No." Marilyn Burns also asked this female RCMP undercover operator if, quote, "Tony was beginning to have an interest in a relationship with you beyond friendship." The female undercover operator, this RCMP investigator, replied, quote, "I didn't feel that way. That wasn't the impression I was getting." Chris Carbert and Anthony Olenek are both being charged with conspiracy to murder. The Crown is alleging that the two conspired to murder police officers. They're also both being accused with unlawful possession of a firearm for a purpose dangerous to the public peace. They're also both being charged with commission of mischief, inducing damages valued at over $5,000. Additionally, Anthony Olenek is charged with unlawful possession of an explosive device for a purpose contrary to the public peace. All of the charges against the two defendants stem from their participation in the 2022 Coutts protest and blockade, which was a civilly disobedient and peaceful demonstration alongside and much like the Freedom Convoy demonstration in Ottawa, Ontario that ran around the same time. The two protests were ideologically aligned in broad opposition to this entire apparatus of control and surveillance imposed by all levels of government and marketed as a public health measure to reduce transmission of COVID-19. You all remember it: orders, edicts, and mandates. The suggestion from Marilyn Burns that this female RCMP undercover operator, this UCO, engaged in flirtatious behavior with her client while she was investigating the Coutts protest and blockade is occurring against a backdrop of denial from the two female RCMP UCOs that have thus far testified as Crown witnesses. They denied using romance as a tactic as part of their investigatory toolkit. They also denied using sexuality as part of their investigations. Now, the parameters around what is and is not defined as either the use of sexuality or romance as some sort of investigatory tactic were not defined. So we don't know exactly what is or is not allowed in terms of this use of either romance or sexuality as an undercover operator. On Monday, we're going to see a third female undercover operator from the RCMP that was deployed to the Coutts protest and blockade. So far, 3 for 3 of these UCOs are women. Now, there was also one male undercover operator who was sent there for 1 day and then removed from the project. He is not being summoned as a witness. This female RCMP undercover operator that testified today did so in the same way as her predecessor, the first female RCMP UCO. She testified in the courtroom with the judge, the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, the defendants, the jurors, and the courtroom staff. But members of the public and news media were not permitted to be in that courtroom in order to protect the anonymity of this officer, given the nature of her work as an undercover investigator. So we were all sitting in a separate courtroom. We could not observe her, but we could listen to her testimony and the proceedings through a live audio feed that was fed into the room that we were sat in. The interpretation of emoji sent via text message was almost a central theme of today's proceedings, which revolved around testimony from this undercover female RCMP officer that was investigating the 2022 Coutts protest and blockade. And in her capacity working at this demonstration, she was exchanging text messages with Anthony Olenek. And she was asked by both the lead prosecutor, Stephen Johnston, and also in cross-examination by Marilyn Burns, defense attorney representing Anthony Olenek, what this sort of smiley face meant, what this heart emoji meant, or these crying, laughing emojis were intended to imply, either being sent from her or sent from Anthony Olenek. So there's this whole layer of interpretive analysis being layered over onto these proceedings based on this new hyper-novel digital method of communication. We at Rebel News obviously view this trial as of deep importance to Canadians, which is why we're investing so much into reporting on it. And if you folks out there agree that this is an important project that needs to continue, then please help us out with our operational costs. Remember, I'm not from here. I came to Lethbridge from my hometown of Ottawa. And while I'm not living a life of luxury out here, it's certainly not free. I've got to get airfare, car rental, accommodation, consumables like food and gas. So your donations keep this project going because, as you know, we don't get handouts from the federal government, and we certainly don't get payouts from the digital platforms that have demonetized us. So go visit truckertrial.com, help us out, and keep following our coverage.